the fatty bit that dangles down at the bottom of the ear. I thought it neat to know that you have all the same ears that your dog or cat does to move their ears. So that whole radar thing they can do when they hear something, you got all the muscles to do it, but you don't have the rest of the structure to make it happen. So that's how you can wiggle your ears a little bit. We continue on, and we enter into the ear here, and we get into the external acoustic meatus, this channel running up the ear, right? You can see that the channel is in the temporal bone, so when you did the skeleton, that's the hole you were looking at, but it also has the fleshy exterior here. And if we travel along the external acoustic meatus, we eventually get to this white circle, which is the tympanic membrane. So those four parts are our external ear. Next up, we get to the middle ear. The main feature of the middle ear is this little space that we can see. So right sort of where I've shoved my fingers, everyone see the sort of space I'm in? I'm just behind the tympanic membrane. I'm on the other side of it now. So that's our tympanic cavity. This space is the tympanic cavity. The tympanic cavity houses the ossicles. So within the tympanic cavity you find the ossicles. And the ossicles are the three little bones. If you want to just write them down, and then I'll quickly run around just to show you the parts of them there. But the three ossicles we have are the malleus, which is the hammer, the incus, or the anvil, and the stapes, or the stirrup. But you need to know the fancier words. The bones have very funny little shapes, so sometimes they're hard to distinguish. So if you look right now, you can see my fingers are touching a ball, a stick going down, and a stick going sideways. See those three parts? That's all malleus. So the ball, the piece going sideways, and the piece going down, all malleus. See the three parts? So it's kind of a warp-shaped bone that you're getting in there. Can you see all the three of them? So, just got a curious little shape. Just people sometimes get weighed on the wrong parts. This is all malleus that I'm touching. So this, and this, and this, all malleus. You see all the three parts of it? The ball, the down, the side, and the down. So that's all malleus. All the bone on the other side of it is incus. So this whole curvy shape looks sort of like a tube with a stick coming down off it. All of that is incus. So this whole piece here, you guys saw it's just all the rest of the piece here. This is all incus. So all of this, the tooth and the stick. And finally, we get to the stapes. And the stapes, you see the little stirrup? So the stapes that we see here is our little stirrup. You guys in the back see the little stirrup on top? Yeah. So this little piece here is the stapes. The stapes is sitting on a structure called the oval window. You can't see it because the stapes is sitting on top of it and the stapes does not come off of it, but I want you to write it down. And once again, on a test, I would have to say, name this thing, stapes. What would you find under the stapes? Oval window. So I'll sort of have to hint you towards it if I phrase it the right way on a test. Also in the middle ear, we have the pharyngeotympanic tube. So this is this tube that we see running down here. That was the tube that goes up into the posterior regions of your nasal cavity and allows for pressure equilibration on either side of your tympanic membrane. If you ever had tubes in your ear, or some people get tubes put in their ear, this is where they shove them in. There is a plastic degradable tube put in here, so it's like a tiny little straw in essence. It helps hold this thing open to allow for good drainage and interaction with air and all that nice stuff. The tubes are degradable, so I think, I'm guessing at the number here, but I think it's about 4 months. They'll often biodegrade and come apart. Yours weren't?
Mine were in for 12 years.
Really? Okay. The ones I've read about were degradable, so they fall apart after a while and they hope the ear will retain its structure. So you had to get yours pulled back out at the time?
One was pulled out, one fell off.
Oh, okay. But are you better now?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times it sort of corrects itself with age. All right, so there's our pharyngeotympanic tube. Now we get to the inner ear. The inner ear consists of the osseous labyrinth. So if I cover the yellow thing and I cover this white thing, everything else we can see here is osseous labyrinth. So the osseous labyrinth is hollow. If, like Fantastic Voyage, you could shrink down into a little miniature spaceship and fly around inside the body, once you got inside here, it's hollow. You could go all over it. And if you were inside the osseous labyrinth, what you'd see on the walls is called the membranous labyrinth. So the osseous labyrinth is the hard outside that we see. On the inside, you would see membranous labyrinth. The only part of the membranous labyrinth that we can see on my model is in here. So if I open up the shell, you can see the little brown circles in there. Everyone sees the little brown circles? They're supposed to be little hollow caves or canals going down in there, those little brown circles they painted on. And those little brown circles are a portion of the membranous labyrinth. Of course, to make it more confusing, because the little brown circles that we're seeing are in the cochlea, they're also the cochlear ducts. So if I label it, I'm either going to have to be accepting of either term or give you a lot of guidance as to which of the words I'm looking for. Because they are membranous labyrinths in the big picture, they are cochlear ducts in the small picture. Does that work? Okay. That sort of set us up for the parts of our inner ear, and it has three parts. The first part are these three big rings of bone that we can see coming off the side of the ear, and these rings are the semicircular canals. We mentioned that these were good for dynamic equilibrium, for detecting rotational acceleration and stuff like that, your semicircular canals. At the other end, we have the cochlea, which is this thing that looks kind of like a snail shell. And that's the thing I opened up. The cochlea is where your hearing is going to take place. And finally, this lump in the middle, I don't know how else to describe it as a lump, a piece of popcorn with lots of caramel on it. I don't know if you see the big gooey hunk we have here that I'm pinching. That part there is the vestibule. The vestibule is where the stapes touches on. So the vestibule is sort of the entrance way for the sound vibrations into the ear. The vestibule was also where we mentioned that static equilibrium is taking place. So that was our vestibule on there. If you look on the bottom of the vestibule, you'll see a little dot with a number 14 on it. And that little dot with the number 14, it's just a little black dot is all they depicted on here on the bottom of the vestibule, is your little tiny round window. So the little black dot is the round window. The round window is a pressure deflector. So when you're hearing, sound waves are banging on your tympanic membrane, and the tympanic membrane is vibrating the ossicles, and the ossicles are vibrating the oval window and creating pressure in here. If the sound is too loud and the pressure is too great, the internal membranes can bulge out of this number 14, and by bulging, they help deflect away some of the pressure, right? It's going to be interesting to see, because I gather one of the most damaging things they found for ears are those little earbud headphones. Apparently they generate a lot of pressure. Even though their sound isn't very big, because of the way they're wedged in your ear and there's no escape, they generate a lot of pressure and do some good hearing loss. And I'm sure you know someone who lives with their earbud headphones, right? I walk around campuses enough, I see that person who they're in all the time. That's why they're going to be deaf at 30. All right. The other thing we can see is this yellow thing dangling down on here. And the yellow thing dangling down is the vestibular cochlear nerve. The vestibular cochlear nerve is one of the cranial nerves we mentioned, and it's bringing both equilibrium information and hearing information into the brain. If I sit the inner ear in the proper position in the bone here, we can see that the vestibular cochlear nerve sits in a little channel right here, right? This little channel right here is the internal acoustic meatus. So if you put it together, it's just where the vestibular cochlear nerve is sitting. Now the last little bit of the ear I want to show you is too small on the model to see, so I'm going to show it to you up here. And I would suggest drawing something like this in your notebooks too. It's just a nice, easy study purpose. So what I've done for this drawing is I've taken the front of the cochlea off, and I've drawn the part you can see. So I've drawn the yellow stick coming down, my hunk of broccoli up there, the yellow coming down is the vestibular cochlear nerve, and then I've got the snail shell coming up the top. And if you look at the snail shell, you'll note that every lobe of the snail shell has 2 brown circles and 1 red triangle. Maybe you saw it when I was coming around showing you the cochlear ducts, but you'll see that every lobe has the exact same pattern, because these things are curling around the ear again and again and again. So what do we have in here? The top brown